If any borough has changed the most in the last 20 years, well, it would probably be Brooklyn. Now, Brooklyn has gentrified rapidly over the past 20 years. Before that, it used to be one of the most dangerous places in the country. It was also filled with many working class immigrant neighborhoods. Today, Brooklyn has changed a lot and is now one of the most expensive places you can live in the country. Here's a map of which areas have been 100% gentrified. Areas like Williamsburg, Dumbo, Brooklyn Heights, and downtown Brooklyn have been completely gentrified over the last 10 years. Today, Bushwick, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, and even Brownsville are currently in the process of being gentrified. Right now, we are currently in the Flatbush neighborhood around Kensington, which is one of the most segregated neighborhoods in Brooklyn. Now, of all the New York City boroughs, Brooklyn is by far the most segregated. The west side of Flatbush, west of Ocean Avenue, is very wealthy and is predominantly Jewish, Indian, and has a small Muslim population. It's very diverse around here and is one of the nicest parts of the city. In fact, Judge Judy is from this exact neighborhood. And then you have East Flatbush, which is far less wealthy and is predominantly Caribbean. The neighborhood is known for its local mom and pop businesses and many people from countries like Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, and more. Many people say that the Flatbush neighborhood is currently being gentrified, and I saw a lot of that walking down Flatbush Avenue. Now, of course, the Caribbean identity isn't going to be erased from this neighborhood for a long time. The problem with gentrification is that it changes a lot of the cultures. Now, once you walk past Ocean Avenue on the east side of the Flatbush neighborhood, it changes drastically. You'll be one of the only white people left, and the neighborhood is very Caribbean. The area is very lively, and most people are very friendly. You'll see a lot of street art, delis, murals, beauty stores, and of course, Caribbean owned businesses everywhere. You also see a lot of Haitian churches as well in the Little Haiti section of Flatbush. One thing you'll also notice is there is a lot of segregation in Brooklyn, and it happens block by block, especially in the Crown Heights neighborhood. One half is almost 100% Jewish, and the other side is mostly Caribbean. It really varies in every part of Brooklyn. I stopped at this street vendor who was selling juices. Now, one thing about Jamaicans is they love selling fruit juices, okay, especially smoothies and fresh pressed juices. It was $7 for this carrot juice, but it was honestly decent. I spoke to this guy named Steve who sold the stuff, and he also sells jerk chicken at night. As you can see, you'll find many newer apartment buildings directly next to older buildings. And he says that the gentrification comes with the positives and negatives. He says as long as the gentrification isn't too much and that if the neighborhood keeps its identity, then gentrification is not a bad thing. I definitely agree to him with a certain extent. Although a lot of the problems which is happening in the Jamaica neighborhood in Queens is that the areas are being completely redeveloped and a lot of the local mom and pop businesses are being replaced by corporate chains. Now, walking through Flatbush, the gentrification is very obvious. These high rises weren't here 5 years ago. Now, I don't think the Caribbean community is going away anytime soon. I mean, people are definitely being pushed out, but it's not super fast, and the gentrification has really only begun like 5 years ago. Right here is a dollar van, which you'll see many going along Flatbush Avenue. They're usually unlicensed vans that can take you almost anywhere in Brooklyn. They're usually owned by Jamaicans and Haitians and are usually about $2 to $6 depending on how far you're going. Many people say that the drivers can be pretty reckless, but a lot of people also appreciate the vans for their convenience. You will also see what are known as gypsy cabs, which are usually unlicensed taxi drivers, usually driving a Lincoln Town Car or a Ford Crown Vic. They're usually pretty cheap and can get you around the place locally. Now, where we are right now is known as Flatbush Junction. This is the main section of the Flatbush neighborhood. It is very lively over here with many stores, public transportation, and people walking around and going about their lives. You can see that it still is holding on to its grittiness and authenticity, but you can see that there is lots of gentrification. I also rode in one of the dollar vans to get back to Ditmas Avenue, and luckily it was pretty empty when I got on, and the ride was pretty nice. The driver was pretty friendly. I didn't feel that he was fast or aggressive. Now we're in the Flatlands neighborhood, which is located just southeast of Flatbush. This is a predominantly Caribbean and African American working class neighborhood. And honestly, not much gentrification has affected this area. A lot of people here are homeowners and are usually working class people. You'll find that a lot of the dollar van drivers actually live here because you'll see a lot of their cars parked on the street or in their driveways. Most of the houses here are low rise, either multi-family or single family row houses. You'll find that there's lots of trees, the houses are maintained well, and there really isn't much garbage in the street, especially compared to the Flatbush neighborhood or somewhere in Brownsville. According to many lists, this is one of the last neighborhoods in Brooklyn to really be gentrified. And to be honest, I really couldn't see any gentrification for the most part. An average family in this neighborhood makes about $90,000 a year, and 60% of the people in this neighborhood are homeowners. It also has some of the best public schools in Brooklyn. Statistically, the area is somewhat diverse. It's about 60% black, mostly Caribbean or African American. The crime rate here is slightly higher than the New York City average, but about average for Brooklyn. Of all the neighborhoods I'm going to show you today, this one is the least likely to be gentrified. This is known as the Mill Basin neighborhood, which is located just south of Flatlands. It's on the water, so there's a lot of boats over here, and 70% of the people in this neighborhood are homeowners. It's predominantly Jewish, Italian, Russian, Eastern European, and has a small Caribbean population as well. The main reason that this neighborhood is the least likely to be gentrified is all the homeowners. Since 70% of the people in this neighborhood own their own home, it's a lot harder to force people out of their houses versus areas where people rent. In the Flatbush neighborhood, almost everybody rents compared to Flatlands or Mill Basin. You'll find that the housing styles here are more suburban, and you'll see a lot of really nice looking houses over here. Tree-lined streets, front yards, backyards, driveways, you get it. Of all the neighborhoods in Brooklyn, this is probably the most suburban and isolated. It's very far from Manhattan as well. You'll find that most of the neighborhoods that are the least likely to get gentrified are the ones further from Manhattan, and I honestly don't see this area changing much. And if something ain't broke, don't fix it. There is nothing wrong with this neighborhood. This is a very nice area. Now, if there's one issue about the Mill Basin neighborhood, it is the property crime. The property crime in this neighborhood is well above the national average, so if you live here, make sure to lock your stuff up. The next neighborhood I'm showing you guys is the Canarsie neighborhood, which is located on the east side of Brooklyn between Mill Basin and East New York. Canarsie was made famous in pop culture because of the rapper Pop Smoke, who passed away in 2019. Pop Smoke was the rapper that made drill rap go international. Although seeing the neighborhood that he's from, I don't know why there are so many people into gang life. This is one of the most suburban parts of Brooklyn and is one of the safest neighborhoods in Brooklyn as well. An interesting fact is that it's also one of the most affordable parts of Brooklyn. More than likely, it's because it's very far from Manhattan and closer to Queens. For the most part, it's a mix of multifamilies and single-family houses on tree-lined streets. It's honestly a pretty quiet neighborhood for the most part and even has its own pier. The average family is bringing around $83,000 a year, and about 48% of the people here are homeowners. The public schools in this area rank about average for New York City. The neighborhood itself is about 79% black and is also one of the most Caribbean parts of Brooklyn. We are at the Canarsie Pier over the Jamaica Bay, I believe. You can see JFK Airport in the distance. You got people fishing, relaxing, barbecuing, making some jerk chicken. Jamaican guys selling the smoothies and fruit juice. It's just a good vibe overall. That might be Staten Island in the distance, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know, looks like these people's barbecue might be getting shut down by the police. Looks like they had some liquor, so maybe that's why they're getting in trouble. I don't know. The last neighborhood I'm going to show you guys in today's video is East New York. Of all the neighborhoods I'm showing you, East New York is by far the worst neighborhood. It has one of the highest crime rates in the city and has a murder rate that is twice the national average. Most people here are bringing in less than $60K a year, which is very low for New York City. The public schools in this area are also very underfunded, and only about 22% of people own their own home. East New York is predominantly black and Latino and has a really high concentration of housing projects. There are way too many housing projects in this neighborhood. A similar issue with Brownsville, which is probably considered the worst part of Brooklyn. East New York is a close second, though. It's not a great area. Although compared to many areas such as the South Bronx and Brownsville itself, East New York doesn't seem too bad, but the statistics don't lie. The crime rate in this neighborhood is very high. Now, the reason I came to East New York is because people are saying that it has been gentrified, and it really hasn't reached too far in. And one thing I have to say about this neighborhood is that the drivers here are really aggressive, even for New York City standards. Historically, East New York has been one of the most neglected neighborhoods by the city, likely due to the fact that it is pretty far from Manhattan and is a predominantly minority area. Although you'll see that there's a lot of revitalization efforts, this place is a lot better than it was in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. Although people have said this neighborhood has really gentrified over the years, and to be honest, I haven't really seen much. There definitely is gentrification in this neighborhood, more so than in Canarsie, Flatlands, or Mill Basin, but it is not rapid gentrification compared to somewhere like Crown Heights or Bushwick. The main issue with this neighborhood, and it's the same thing for Brownsville, is the high concentration of housing projects. There are dozens of housing projects in the East New York and Brownsville neighborhood, and it creates a major issue. Most of the residential streets here really aren't too bad, and a lot of the crime, poverty, and gang violence is coming from the housing projects, and it kind of messes up the data for the more residential, safe parts of the neighborhood. But believe me, walking through East New York or being anywhere in this neighborhood, you really have to watch your back. The main street that cuts through East New York is known as Linden Boulevard. Well, honestly, it's more of a highway more than anything else. And from that highway, you can see a lot of the housing projects in this neighborhood. One of the most notorious one is known as the Lewis Pink Houses. Generally, the area closer to Brownsville is considered the worst part. The areas closer to the water near Starrett City aren't too bad. Although the gentrification is very visible along Linden Boulevard, here are some of the housing projects in this area. There's also a lot of new developments as well. Honestly, though, not all gentrification is bad gentrification. The only issue is that in many of these areas, it becomes way too much. It becomes an issue when people are priced out, the culture of the neighborhood changes, and the areas become more commercialized rather than having mom and pop businesses. But a lot of the time, it also cuts down the crime rates and makes the neighborhoods better. So it's honestly all about balance. And while, yes, many parts of Brooklyn are changing and have become completely unaffordable, there's still a lot of old school Brooklyn left, especially in South Brooklyn, which I didn't cover in this video. But neighborhoods like Bay Ridge, Dyker Heights, Bensonhurst, Gravesend, and Brighton Beach are definitely not being gentrified anytime soon and still hold on to that gritty Brooklyn culture. You'll hear thick New York accents down there, lots of Italians, Russians, and Jewish people, and a recent influx of Chinese people. Overall, though, South Brooklyn is still holding on to that working class immigrant communities kind of vibe. Also, one of the things with gentrification is proximity to Manhattan. Areas in South Brooklyn and on the east side, like Canarsie and East New York, are very far from Manhattan and, as such, less likely to be gentrified. And also, there's only so many rich people, okay, that can move into these luxury apartments that are completely unaffordable. And the working class populations and people that work for the city are always going to need somewhere to live. So it's not like these neighborhoods are going to be completely wiped out. We'll see what happens, though, for Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn has changed rapidly, and it's only a matter of time, honestly. Anyways, this is going to be the end of my video. Now, I'm not from Brooklyn. I'm not even from New York City, but I really did my research and decided to go deep into many Brooklyn neighborhoods to see what has changed a lot in this borough. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.